The brochure was glossy and professional. Golden Years Retirement Community. My daughter handed it to me with a smile. "Mom, we found the perfect place for you." I was only 62 years old. I sat in my daughter Claudia's living room in San Antonio, the brochure heavy in my hands, despite weighing almost nothing. The photographs showed smiling elderly people playing bingo, eating meals in a communal dining room, participating in chair yoga classes. Everyone in the photos looked to be in their 80s or 90s. "Claudia, I'm 62. I'm not ready for a retirement home." "It's not a retirement home, Mom. It's a retirement community." "There's a difference." "What difference?" "Retirement homes are for people who need medical care. Communities are for active seniors who want to simplify their lives and be around people their own age." Her husband Victor nodded from his chair. "My aunt lives in one in Houston. She loves it. No yard work, no maintenance, built-in social activities." "I like my yard work. I like my house." Claudia leaned forward, her expression shifting to what I'd come to recognize as her reasonable adult talking to difficult child face. "Mom, your house is too much for you to handle alone. The yard is overgrown. The roof needs repairs. The plumbing is old. You're going to hurt yourself trying to maintain it. I've lived in that house for 35 years. I raised you and your brother there." "Exactly. It's full of memories, but memories don't fix broken pipes or mow lawns." I looked down at the brochure again. The Golden Years Retirement Community was located 45 minutes outside San Antonio, in a small town I'd never heard of. The monthly fees were listed on the back page, and my stomach had dropped when I'd seen the numbers. $3,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. I can't afford this. We know. That's why Victor and I have been discussing it. We think the best solution is for you to sell your house and use that money to cover the community fees. Sell my house? Mom, your house is worth about $250,000. That would cover almost 7 years of fees at Golden Years. And by then, you'll qualify for some senior assistance program. And what happens after 7 years when the money runs out? Claudia and Victor had exchanged a glance that I couldn't quite read. We'll figure that out when we get there. The important thing is getting you somewhere safe now. I am safe in my own home. Mom, you fell last month. You told me yourself you slipped on the bathroom floor. I slipped on water. It wasn't a serious fall, but it could have been. What if you'd hit your head? What if you'd broken your hip? You live alone. It could have been hours before anyone found you." The fear in her voice had been genuine, and I'd felt guilty for being the source of her worry. But I'd also felt something else. Resentment. I was 62 years old, healthy, active. I worked part-time at a fabric store. I volunteered at my church. I had friends and a social life. I wasn't some fragile elderly person who needed to be warehoused in a facility. I appreciate your concern, but I'm not interested in moving to a retirement community right now. Maybe in 10 or 15 years, but not now. Claudia's expression had hardened. "Mom, we're not asking. We're telling you. This is what's best for you, and we've already started the process." "What process?" "We've submitted an application to Golden Years on your behalf. They have a spot available, starting next month." The room had tilted slightly. "You applied for me without asking. We knew you'd resist the idea, but it really is the best option. Your house is too much responsibility, and we worry about you constantly. So you're making decisions about my life without my input. We're your children. We have a responsibility to make sure you're safe. I'm your mother, not your child. You don't get to decide where I live." Victor had stood up then, his voice firm in a way that suggested he thought his masculine authority would settle the matter. "Teresa, Claudia and I have thought about this carefully. We're not trying to upset you. We're trying to help you by selling my house and putting me in a facility against my will." "It's not a facility, and it's not against your will. You'll see once you visit that it's actually a wonderful community." "I don't want to visit it. I want to stay in my home." Claudia had pulled out her phone, scrolling to something she wanted to show me. "Mom, I've been documenting issues with your house. Look at these photos. She'd shown me pictures of my overgrown garden, my cluttered garage, a loose board on my back porch. Small things that every homeowner deals with, but in her photos they looked like evidence of neglect and inability to cope. You're spying on my house? I'm documenting reality. You can't keep up with maintenance anymore. Those are all minor issues that I was planning to address. The garden gets overgrown in summer. The garage has boxes I've been meaning to sort. The porch board is loose because of the humidity. None of that means I need to move to a retirement home. Community, Victor corrected. And it's not just about the house, it's about your social isolation. I'm not socially isolated. When was the last time you went out with friends? I have coffee with Louisa every week. One friend isn't a social life. At Golden Years, you'd be surrounded by people your age. You'd have activities and events every day. I don't want activities and events every day. I like my quiet life. What they said next revealed this wasn't about my safety at all. Claudia had put her phone away and looked at me with an expression that mixed frustration and something that looked almost like guilt. Mom, there's something else we need to discuss. Victor got a job offer in Denver. That's wonderful. Congratulations. We're taking it, which means we'll be moving in about 6 weeks. The pieces had started falling into place. And you don't want to leave me here in San Antonio while you're in Denver. It's not that we don't want to leave you. It's that we can't leave you. Not when you're living alone in a house that's falling apart. My house isn't falling apart. You just want to sell it so you don't have to worry about me from Denver. That's not fair, Mom. Isn't it? You're moving across the country and instead of trusting me to continue living my life as an independent adult, you want to pack me away in a retirement community where someone else will be responsible for me. Victor had tried again. Teresa, we're not packing you away. We're trying to ensure you have support and care while we're not nearby. I have support. I have friends here. I have my church. I have my routine. Friends, your age who are also getting older and won't be able to help if you have an emergency. Church activities that only happen once a week. Routines that will become harder to maintain as you age. I'm 62, not 92. Claudia had stood up, clearly frustrated that I wasn't accepting their plan gratefully. Mom, we've made the decision. You're moving to Golden Years next month. We'll help you sort through the house and decide what to keep. The rest can be sold or donated. You can't force me to move. Actually, we can. We've consulted with an attorney. Given your age and living situation, we can petition for conservatorship if you refuse to act in your own best interests. The threat had been delivered so matter-of-factly that it had taken me a moment to process it. You're threatening to have me declared incompetent. We're explaining that we have options, if you won't cooperate with a reasonable plan for your safety. Getting conservatorship isn't easy. You'd need to prove I can't manage my own affairs. Mom, you're 62, living alone, struggling to maintain your property. That's enough to at least start the process. And even if we don't succeed, the process itself would be expensive and stressful for you. I'd stood up, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. Get out of my house. We're in our house, Mom. You came to visit us, remember? Then I'm leaving. And don't contact me again until you're ready to apologize for threatening your own mole with legal action. I'd walked out before they could respond. The drive back to my house in South San Antonio had been a blower of anger and fear. Anger at my daughter for treating me like I was incompetent. Fear that she might actually follow through on her threat. What I discovered when I got home made everything worse. My front door had been unlocked when I'd returned, which was odd because I was certain I'd locked it before leaving for Claudia's house. I'd walked through cautiously, looking for signs of a break-in. In my bedroom, I'd found evidence that someone had been searching through my things. Drawers slightly open, papers on my desk shuffled, my filing cabinet unlocked, when I always kept it secured. Then I'd noticed what was missing. My important documents folder, the one containing my birth certificate, social security card, deed to my house, and bank account information. Gone. I'd called Claudia immediately. Did you take my documents? What documents? Don't play games. My birth certificate, house deed, banking information. Someone was in my house and took them. There'd been a pause. Mom, we have copies of those documents for safekeeping. We got them last time we were at your house. You stole my personal documents? We didn't steal them. We're keeping them safe. You're not always careful with important papers. We wanted to make sure nothing was lost. When were you in my house without my permission? Last week when you were at church. We used the spare key you gave us for emergencies. That key was for emergencies, not for breaking into my house and stealing my documents. We didn't break in. We used a key you gave us. And we didn't steal anything. We're protecting your interests. By taking documents, I need to manage my own finances and property. You don't need them right now. And when it's time to sell the house, we'll have every ready to make the process smooth. I'd felt sick. My own daughter had entered my house without permission, taken my personal documents, and was acting like this was reasonable behavior. Claudia, I want those documents back. Today. That's not possible. They're in our safe. We'll return them when you're settled at Golden Years. I'm not going to Golden Years. I'm staying in my house. And if you don't return my documents, I'll report them as stolen. You can't report us for stealing documents we're keeping safe for you. No police officer would take that seriously. Then I'll hire a lawyer. With what money, Mom? Your accounts are frozen. The words had stopped me cold. What do you mean my accounts are frozen? We had to take emergency measures to protect your assets. There were some unusual transactions that concerned us. What unusual transactions? Large cash withdrawals, payments to people we don't recognize. We thought your accounts might have been compromised. Those were my withdrawals, and my payments for services I hired. You had no right to freeze my accounts. We had every right. As your family, we have a responsibility to protect you from financial exploitation. The trap they'd set was complete, and I'd walked right into it. I'd driven to my bank the next morning. The branch manager, a woman I'd known for 15 years, had looked uncomfortable when I'd asked about my accounts. Mrs. Rivera, I'm not supposed to discuss this with you directly. Why not? It's my money. There's been a legal hold placed on your accounts pending a conservatorship review. A what? Your daughter filed paperwork claiming you're financially incompetent and need a conservator until the court reviews the petition. Your accounts are frozen. She did this yesterday? How is that possible? The paperwork was filed 3 weeks ago. The freeze went into effect yesterday. 3 weeks. They've been planning this for 3 weeks while pretending to have innocent conversations about my future. While I thought we were discussing options, they'd been building a legal case to take control of my life. What do I do? You need to hire an attorney to contest the conservatorship petition. But Mrs. Rivera, I have to warn you that without access to your accounts, paying legal fees will be difficult. Can I access any of my money? The court allowed a small amount for basic living expenses, $500 a month. That's barely enough for food and utilities. How am I supposed to pay a lawyer? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'd left the bank feeling like the walls were closing in. Claudia and Victor had frozen my accounts, stolen my documents, and filed for conservatorship. They'd constructed a legal trap that left me unable to fight back effectively. But I wasn't helpless. I still had friends. I still had my mind and my determination. And I wasn't going to let my daughter steal my independence without a fight. My friend Luisa became my lifeline. Luisa Mendoza had been my friend for 20 years. We'd worked together at the garment factory before it closed, and we'd stayed close afterward. When I'd called her crying about what Claudia had done, she'd come over immediately. Teresa, this is elder abuse. You know that, right? It can't be abuse if it's my own daughter. Abuse is abuse regardless of who's doing it. Taking your documents, freezing your accounts, threatening conservatorship. Those are all forms of financial and legal abuse. What can I do? I can't afford a lawyer. My nephew Ricardo is a lawyer. He does some pro bono work. Let me call him. Ricardo Mendoza had met with me that same evening. He was in his 30s, sharp and intense, and he'd listened to my story with increasing anger. Mrs. Rivera, what your daughter is doing is illegal on multiple fronts. Breaking into your house, taking your documents, freezing your accounts without proper legal authority. We can fight this, but I don't have money to pay you. I'm taking your case pro bono. This is exactly the kind of elder abuse I went to law school to fight against. What do we do first? First, we file an emergency motion to unfreeze your accounts. Then we respond to the conservatorship petition. Then we potentially file criminal charges for theft and illegal entry. Criminal charges against my own daughter? She committed crimes against you. The fact that she's your daughter doesn't make it legal. Over the next 2 weeks, Ricardo had filed multiple motions and petitions. The conservatorship hearing had been scheduled for a month away. But in the meantime, he'd managed to get partial access to my accounts restored for legal expenses. Claudia had been furious when she'd received notice of the legal actions. She'd called me repeatedly, alternating between anger and attempts at reconciliation. Mom, you're making this so much harder than it needs to be. We're trying to help you. By stealing from me and trying to have me declared incompetent, we're not stealing, we're protecting. There's a difference. I don't see any difference from where I'm standing. If you'd just cooperate with the Golden Years plan, none of this would be necessary. I'm not cooperating with a plan I never agreed to. The conservatorship hearing revealed just how far Claudia would go to control me. The courtroom was small and institutional, with fluorescent lights and worn wooden benches. Claudia and Victor sat on one side with their lawyer, a polished woman in an expensive suit. I sat with Ricardo on the other side. The judge was a man in his 60s named Hernandez. He looked at the paperwork with what seemed like skepticism, which Ricardo said was a good sign. This is a petition for conservatorship based on alleged financial incompetence, Judge Hernandez had read aloud. What evidence is the petitioner presenting? Claudia's lawyer had stood. Your Honor, we have documentation showing that Mrs. Rivera is unable to maintain her property, manage her finances responsibly, or make appropriate decisions about her living situation. What documentation? Photographs of her neglected home, bank statements showing unusual transactions, medical records indicating a recent fall. Ricardo had objected immediately. Your Honor, those photographs show normal wear and tear on a house, not neglect. The bank transactions are all legitimate purchases and services. And the fall was a minor slip with no injuries. What about cognitive assessments? Judge Hernandez had asked. Has Mrs. Rivera been evaluated by a medical professional regarding her mental competency? Claudia's lawyer had hesitated. Not formally, Your Honor, but her behavior. I'm not interested in characterizations of behavior. I want medical evidence if you're claiming incompetence. We believe an evaluation would show. You believe, but you don't have actual evidence. Ricardo had stood. Your Honor, I'd like to present Mrs. Rivera for your evaluation. I think you'll find her completely competent to manage her own affairs. I'd been called to testify, and I'd walk to the stand on steady legs despite my nervousness. The judge had asked me a series of questions. Mrs. Rivera, what is your current address? I provided it accurately, along with my phone number and social security number when asked. Can you describe your daily routine? I wake up around 6:30. I have coffee and read the newspaper. 3 days a week, I work at a fabric store from 9 to 3. On other days, I volunteer at my church or spend time with friends. I grocery shop on Thursdays. I attend Mass on Sundays. I manage my own cooking, cleaning, and household tasks. Do you manage your own finances? Yes. I pay my bills online. I balance my checkbook. I budget for expenses and save what I can. Your daughter claims you're unable to maintain your property. My property is in good condition for a house that's 35 years old. Yes, there are minor repairs needed occasionally, but I either handle them myself or hire professionals. That's normal homeownership. What about your recent fall? I slipped on water in my bathroom after showering. I caught myself on the counter. No injuries, just a scare that I mentioned to my daughter, who apparently decided to use it as evidence that I'm incompetent. Judge Hernandez had looked at Claudia. Miss Rivera, why are you seeking conservatorship over your mother? Claudia had stood, her voice emotional. Your Honor, I love my mother. I'm worried about her living alone at her age. My husband and I are moving to Denver, and we won't be nearby if something happens. So this is about your peace of mind, not your mother's competence. It's about both. She's stubborn and won't accept help. Not accepting help isn't grounds for conservatorship. Millions of older adults live independently and refuse help from their families. But the house appears to be maintained adequately based on the photographs submitted. Normal wear and tear isn't evidence of incompetence. Claudia's lawyer had tried to salvage the petition. Your Honor, we believe that with proper evaluation, evidence of diminished capacity would emerge. Then you should have obtained that evaluation before filing this petition. I'm not granting conservatorship based on speculation and anxiety. Ricardo had stood again. Your Honor, we'd like to address the criminal aspects of what's occurred. Breaking and entering, theft of documents, illegal freezing of accounts. These actions have caused significant harm to Mrs. Rivera. Judge Hernandez had looked at Claudia with what seemed like disappointment. Miss Rivera, did you enter your mother's home without permission and take her personal documents? I had a key. I was concerned about important papers being lost. That's not an answer to my question. Did you enter without permission? She wasn't home, if that's what you mean. Did you enter without first asking if you could come over? Claudia had been silent. And did you take documents including her house deed and banking information for safekeeping? Did your mother agree to this safekeeping? More silence. Judge Hernandez had sighed heavily. I'm denying the conservatorship petition. Mrs. Rivera is clearly competent to manage her own affairs. As for the alleged criminal activity, I'm ordering that all documents taken from Mrs. Rivera be returned within 48 hours. I'm also ordering the immediate removal of any freezes on her accounts beyond normal banking security measures. Claudia had started crying. Your Honor, please. I'm just trying to protect my mother. By violating her rights and autonomy, that's not protection. That's control. Petition denied. After the hearing, Claudia cut me out of her life completely. She'd left the courthouse without speaking to me. When I tried to call her that evening, I discovered she'd blocked my number. I tried emailing, but those messages bounced back as undeliverable. Ricardo had retrieved my documents from Claudia's lawyer, who'd seemed embarrassed by the whole situation. My bank accounts had been unfrozen within 24 hours. But the victory had felt hollow. Yes, I'd won the legal battle. I'd maintained my independence and my home. But I'd lost my daughter in the process. Luisa had tried to comfort me. She'll come around eventually, once she's settled in Denver, and has time to think about what she did. I don't think so. She's too proud to admit she was wrong. Then that's her loss, not yours. She's my daughter. How can losing her not be my loss? Because she chose to leave. You didn't push her away. She pushed you away when you refused to let her control you. 3 months had passed with no contact from Claudia. I'd sent cards for her birthday and Victor's. I'd texted occasionally, simple messages saying I loved her and hoped she was well. No responses. My son Roberto had called from Phoenix during this time. Mom, Claudia told me what happened with the conservatorship thing. What did she tell you? That she tried to help you move to a better living situation, and you refused. That you hired a lawyer and humiliated her in court. Is that really what she said? That's her version. What's yours? I told him the full story. The unauthorized entry into my house, the stolen documents, the frozen accounts, the conservatorship petition filed without medical evidence. Roberto had been quiet for a long time after I'd finished. Mom, that's not what she told me. I didn't think it would be. She made it sound like you were being unreasonable, and she was just concerned. Roberto, I'm 62 years old. I work part-time. I manage my own home and finances. Do I seem incompetent to you? No. You seem like the same independent woman you've always been. Then why would I need a conservator? You wouldn't. But Claudia has always been a worrier, and she's always needed to feel in control. This wasn't about worry. It was about control. She was moving to Denver and wanted to pack me away in a facility so she didn't have to think about me. Probably. That sounds like Claudia, actually. Roberto's support meant more than he knew. Unlike Claudia, Roberto respected my independence. He called regularly, but didn't try to manage my life. He visited when he was in San Antonio, but didn't criticize my house or my choices. He was what a good adult child should be, present but not controlling. Mom, do you need anything? Money, help with repairs, anything. I'm okay, mijo. The legal fees were expensive, but Ricardo only charged me a fraction of what he could have. Let me give you money for the legal fees. It's not right that you had to pay to defend yourself from Claudia's nonsense. You don't have to do that. I want to. Families should help each other, not tear each other down. He'd sent me a check for $5,000. When I'd protested, he'd said, Mom, you spent 30 years helping me and Claudia. Let me help you now. Luisa had remained my closest friend and ally. She'd checked on me daily during the legal battle and had continued to be present afterward. We'd have coffee every week and talk about everything except Claudia. One afternoon, about 6 months after the conservatorship hearing, Luisa had brought news. I saw Claudia. Where? She was visiting San Antonio. I ran into her at the grocery store. How did she look? Tired, stressed. She asked about you. What did she ask? How you were doing. If you were okay. If you were still in your house. What did you tell her? That you're thriving. That you're happy and healthy and managing everything beautifully. That you didn't need her interference then and you don't need it now. Luisa, you didn't. I did. Someone needed to tell her the truth. What did she say? She cried. Said she missed you. Said she didn't know how to fix what she'd broken. She could start by apologizing. I told her that too. She said she was too ashamed. 1 year after the conservatorship hearing, Claudia finally reached out. A letter had arrived, postmarked from Denver. I'd recognized Claudia's handwriting immediately. I'd sat at my kitchen table staring at that envelope for 20 minutes before opening it. Dear Mom, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you threw it away unopened, but I need to try to explain what happened and why I behaved the way I did. When Victor got the Denver job offer, I panicked. We'd be so far away, and I kept imagining everything that could go wrong with you here alone. I convinced myself that the only way to keep you safe was to control your living situation completely. I know now that was wrong. I wasn't trying to keep you safe. I was trying to control you, because it made me feel less anxious about moving away. And when you resisted my control, I escalated instead of backing down. Breaking into your house was wrong. Taking your documents was wrong. Filing for conservatorship was wrong. All of it was wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm just asking you to know that I understand what I did and why it was terrible. I miss you. Victor misses you. We talk about you often and wish things were different. If you ever want to talk, I'm here, but I understand if you don't. Love, Claudia. I'd read the letter 3 times, crying through each reading. She'd apologized. She'd acknowledged what she'd done. She'd taken responsibility without making excuses. But an apology, even a good one, doesn't erase harm. She'd violated my home, stolen my documents, tried to have me declared incompetent. Those facts didn't change just because she'd written a nice letter. I'd called Ricardo for advice. Should I respond? That depends. Do you want a relationship with her? She's my daughter. Of course I want a relationship. But do you trust her? That was the harder question. I don't know. Then maybe you're not ready to respond yet, and that's okay. I'd put the letter in a drawer and tried to focus on my life, my work at the fabric store, my church activities, my friendship with Luisa. But the letter had stayed in my mind, Claudia's words echoing during quiet moments. 2 months after receiving the letter, I finally called Claudia. She'd answered on the first ring, her voice breathless. Mom? Hello, Claudia. I wasn't sure you'd call. I wasn't sure you'd even read my letter. I read it multiple times. And I appreciate the apology. But I need you to understand that what you did caused real harm. I spent months afraid that I'd lose my home and my independence. I spent thousands of dollars on legal fees. I lost sleep and peace of mind. I know. I'm so sorry. Sorry isn't enough by itself. I need to know that you understand why what you did was wrong. Not just that it hurt me, but why it was fundamentally wrong. Because I tried to control you instead of respecting your autonomy. Yes. And because I put my anxiety ahead of your rights as an adult. And because even if you had needed help, the way I went about it was abusive and illegal. Yes. All of that. We talked for 2 hours that first call. Claudia had explained how therapy in Denver had helped her understand her control issues and anxiety, how she'd been working on respecting boundaries and letting go of the need to manage everyone around her. Mom, can I visit sometime? I'd like to see you in person and apologize face to face. I'm not ready for that yet. I understand. Can we keep talking on the phone? Yes. But Claudia, I need you to know that rebuilding trust will take time. A long time. This isn't something that gets fixed with one good conversation. I know, and I'm willing to take however long it takes. Over the following year, we slowly rebuilt a relationship. We'd talked on the phone weekly at first, then more frequently. The conversations were sometimes awkward, sometimes emotional, but always honest. Claudia told me about her life in Denver, her job, her friends, the house they'd bought. I told her about my life in San Antonio, making it clear that I was thriving on my own terms. Mom, your house still sounds like it's in good shape. It is. I hired a handyman to fix the porch board you were so worried about. And I finally cleaned out the garage. Turns out I didn't need to be in a retirement home to manage basic household tasks. I deserve that. I was completely wrong about your capabilities. You were completely wrong about a lot of things. I was, and I'm still working on understanding why I needed to control you so badly. Have you figured it out? Partly. My therapist says I have abandonment issues from when Dad left. I cope by trying to control everyone around me so they can't leave. But the irony is that my need for control pushes people away instead of keeping them close. That's remarkably insightful. Expensive therapy should be insightful. We'd laughed together for the first time in over a year. 14 months after the conservatorship hearing, Claudia had visited San Antonio. I'd agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a coffee shop near downtown. When she'd walked in, I'd barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, her hair was shorter, and she'd looked older somehow, like the past year had aged her in ways that went beyond time. Mom, she'd hugged me, and I'd let her, though I'd remained stiff in her embrace. Hello, Claudia. We'd sat and ordered coffee, the awkwardness thick between us. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. You're my daughter. I was always going to meet you eventually. I wasn't sure. I thought you might hate me forever. I don't hate you. I'm hurt and angry and cautious, but I don't hate you. Mom, I need to say this in person. I'm sorry for all of it. For breaking into your house, for taking your documents, for filing that conservatorship petition, for treating you like you were incompetent when you were perfectly capable, for putting my anxiety ahead of your autonomy. I'm sorry for all of it. I accept your apology, but you don't forgive me. I'm working on it. Forgiveness takes time. I understand. Can I ask what I can do to help rebuild your trust? Keep respecting my independence. Don't try to manage my life. Don't make decisions for me. Treat me like the competent adult I am. I can do that. I am doing that. 2 years after the conservatorship hearing, we reached a new normal. Claudia and I talked regularly by phone. She visited San Antonio twice a year, always with advanced planning and always respecting my boundaries. She'd stopped offering unsolicited advice about my house or my life. She'd learned to ask instead of assume. Mom, how's your roof? You mentioned it might need repairs. I had it inspected. It's good for another 5 years. Do you need help with the cost when it's time? I'll figure it out. But thank you for offering, instead of just demanding to handle it for me. I'm learning. You are, and I appreciate it. Roberto had remained supportive throughout. He'd never taken sides, but he'd made it clear that he thought Claudia's actions had been wrong. Mom, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. A lot of older people would have just gone along with what Claudia wanted. I'm not that old, and I'm definitely not that weak. Clearly, I'd also grown closer to Louisa and her family. Her nephew Ricardo had remained a friend, occasionally stopping by to check that I didn't have any other legal issues. Mrs. Rivera, you're a success story. Most people in your situation don't fight back, and they lose their independence. You fought and you won. It didn't feel like winning at the time. The best victories rarely do. Today, 3 years after that conservatorship hearing, I'm still in my house. I'm 65 now, still working part-time, still managing my own life. My house is maintained, my bills are paid, my independence is intact. Claudia sends cards for my birthday,